Holy moly, we're
Look at
back.
that. We are back.
Look at that.
I think I'm on
Welcome
the
Action
to
wrong
the.
show.
Wow, are we on the right show? It's the Crow's
I don't
Nest.
know.
It
you know.
is Tuesday the 26th, 5 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. more importantly in the Mountain Time. And I got Jason with me. And today's special guest is a frequent guest to the show, Miss what was the paint slinger? Rhonda Bender, slinger. Hey, Rhonda.
I
Hello,
didn't know you
everybody.
Hey,
pronounced the G, but that's cool.
yeah. More importantly, Rhonda and I, independently, but we have been playing the new game Stray. What do you think? What's your review so far?
Oh, I really like it. It
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
it looks
It's pretty
fun.
cool. Yeah,
You do very cat things, and there's like an underlying sort of mystery that is intriguing to me.
yeah, yeah. No, I dig it. It's not my hack and slash killing like Elden Ring. It's much more subdued, but it's really cool. If you guys don't know anything about it, haven't checked it. I didn't know anything about it until Rhonda sent me a link to it a week before it came out, and I just made it through the main city, and I'm going down into the main lower city where you got to get all the books. I'm not going to spoiler alert or anything, but then you got to go down below. I just went down below, and I'm looking for the one guy. Have you made it that far yet?
You're further ahead than I. Nope.
Yeah,
And you're a
it's
I
cool.
cat?
was
Is
I
that
was
the
doing
deal?
the. Yep, you're a cat.
Yes,
You're a cat trying to
you're a
get
kid,
back to where you want to be.
and you got a little buddy. You got a little robot buddy that you wear. You're a cat that wears a backpack. Now that's
Huh.
the only.
Reluctantly.
Yes, reluctantly. Yes. I don't know of any cats that would actually wear a backpack, but I'm not the cat expert. Rhonda is. Um, so, so on today's show, we're going to talk to
So are they
Rhonda,
endorsing us now?
the Stray, the video game.
Yeah. They
Yes,
should
totally.
now. You gave them a shout
I
out.
should. I should.
I mean, they should.
As
Yeah.
soon as they find out about this, I'm sure they are. Um, we wanted let's do since we haven't been on the air forever, and apologies for not being on the air forever. Pokey Tool. So for every 3 subs, was that it, Justin? Justin, yes,
That's what it used to
3
be.
subs.
He's checked
Yes,
out
every
already.
3 subs.
I,
He's
I,
having a
Uh,
micro nap.
I
we
think
will.
it's three. No, my stuff was muted. I think it's 3 or 5.
Yeah, we'll give
At this
away.
point, I don't know.
Yeah, we haven't been on so long. Pokey Tool.
Yeah, what is
Three
that?
subs. We'll do a drawing.
Who did
Hashtag.
that pokey tool?
Good, great question. 2 guesses, Rhonda. Who did the Pokey Tool?
I have to know.
Huh?
So Julie sculpted it, and Bob
Yeah.
did the lettering on the back that you can't see because it's in the package.
Yeah. Here's my Pokey Tool broken off from the pin. And there's well, it's hard to read blue
Wow, you
text.
used it so much you broke it?
Yeah. I bent it really bad, and then I went ahead and broke it off because I had an
I made a hat
idea.
pin out of mine.
I still have an idea
And then
about.
Michael said I couldn't get another one, so that kind of pissed me off. So I just quit painting altogether.
So get your subs in if you want to try to win one of these. So today, I've finished a couple of things since probably the last show that I haven't been able to show off. So we can do a little bit of a Reaper Bones 6 kind of tease. And
Yeah, I think that
have I
sounds
shown
good.
this stuff before?
Oh, look at that.
So there's just sculpted by Julie Guthrie. I think it's in the core pack. I'm not sure where anything is in this Kickstarter at all. But it's a cool little take
Yeah,
on a
that's a
beholder.
wonderful monster.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then Troll,
Oh,
Ooh,
Bobby Jackson troll.
Bobby Jackson Troll. I don't
extra
Bobby
cranky.
extra cranky. And there's the theme going on here. Can you spot the theme?
Is
Yeah.
it Jack?
I don't know what's going on, but there's a theme. I can't really put my finger on it, but there's what's going on. So here's the troll. This is in the Kickstarter. Here's the Minotaur, which I've been working on forever. It's still not quite done. It's part of the Kickstarter too. And my other final thing is one other troll. No green troll.
Well, see, that one doesn't have the same theme.
No, that one doesn't.
The other
there's
two,
not
just a little bit of myconazole would probably help.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Little inflammation, yeah. Or a little talcum powder, maybe. I don't know. So today, while we chit chat, I will be continuing to work on the Minotaur, the never-ending, never-finished Minotaur. So, streaming seems to be going well today. How have you been, Rhonda? Ooh, wait. Cranky Dog says Michael Jackson impersonators. Yep. That's a good one. That's probably the cleanest one. Well, I don't know. I'm not going there either. So what do we got coming up in about a month? A little over a month.
Distressingly, yes. For those of us who are not yet prepared.
Labor Day picnic, Labor Day camping.
Yes, hot dogs and hamburgers at Weeby Tiki's house in Spokane, Washington. It's a big party. That's right. No, Neo Show 143 got it. Reapercon. Reapercon's coming up. And every year at Reapercon, we do the MSP Open, which is a painting competition. And Rhonda and I are judges.
What does MSP stand for?
Master Series Paint. Master Series Paint. The MSP is based on based on Reaper's paint line and the MSP Open. So Master Series paint line. It's the Open. It's the painting competition.
I thought it was
so it's a tie-in. Yeah, no. I am
Michael Samuel Proctor.
I have my middle initials G, not S.
Okay. Well, there goes that idea.
Yeah, that idea is totally out of it. So, Moonlight Minis is on. I heard that, and I didn't even know about this, even though I'm the executive director of the competition, that Moonlight Minis is going to have a manufacturer's award. So, so we're going to talk about the MSP Open today, and we're going to talk about
sculpt as well. The award. Huh? I said the award is a great sculpt as well.
Yeah, but that's not where I was going with this conversation.
Okay, well, then why don't you steer a little bit more there, pal?
So let's get back to Christine for a second. Christine, and let's give her a pub. For her, she's going to do Moonlight Minis is going to have a manufacturer's award, first, second, and third. It's a really kick-ass trophy. And there's a fourth award that I believe she's going to pick her favorite mini. It doesn't even need to be Moonlight Mini or not. It could just be anything, whatever her favorite miniature is. So, here we go. So we are.
We're getting some news in the chat that you were in fact informed of this at the launch party. So you did know that you just forgot.
But Ron apparently didn't greenlight it until last week.
I was going to do a manufacturer's award. I told you I was going to do. I don't remember that. But then again, that was a long time ago. It was like a month or two ago. So anyways, I think it's super cool. Yeah. So I think it's super cool. Yeah. Hey, more the merrier. I mean, I think the great thing that Reaper has done over the years in particular is it's not just their con. You can enter whatever you want to enter into since it's called an open, but having manufacturers awards and helping, Christine's company is a small, growing miniatures company, and this gives her attention. Patrick Keith, Bombshell, has a manufacturer's award as well. I hope that's helped his business. Jim Ledwig, who won't be here this year, has had a Manufacturers Award for years. So it just helps. It's really cool. Wicked Elf's going to do one eventually too, I hear. I just made that up. So I wanted to have Rhonda on because Rhonda's been a judge at Reapercon for years and years and years. Not to date her or anything, but and you've done you like you yeah, look at this. You like writing words and blogs and all that kind of stuff where you actually have to read.
I do.
What's the number one question that you get asked related to competitions?
Just in general?
Yeah, in general.
Because I can think of one that's specific to the MSP, but I don't know if I can think of it.
No, do that. Whatever pops in your head first. It's no one dead air.
Weirdly, it's often the question is, why did you pick that one to judge? And not just, what did we think of it, but they may have had 3 or 5 miniatures. And I've been in this position myself. When I went to World Expo Open Show, I was like, okay, you picked the one I only brought because Michael told me I needed 5 things in my display.
Yeah.
So I totally understand why people ask that question.
Well, I hear all the time, why do the judges hate me? I hear that when you guys are out of earshot. So it's essentially the same question. So maybe we could take it from that.
Well, I'll let Rhonda answer her question first.
I think sometimes people are surprised because often they're expecting us to pick the thing that felt hardest to them to paint. Like you're trying a new technique. Maybe you haven't done non-metallic metal before. So you tried some non-metallic metal. And then we didn't pick that one. We picked one that you did metallics on. So we, and probably any skill really, have this thing where something that feels hard, we think it must be better. Like we must have done better work. But you also have to think that you're a beginner on that one. And this other one is using skills that you've used a long time and you don't have to think about all the time. So you're actually more practiced at those skills. You're giving yourself credit for all those months or years of work that you put in mastering those skills. So I think that's part of what happens. And then I think the other thing that will happen with artists is we have an emotional connection with our work. I know that Michael's painted some things that come out of a really deep emotional place, and those things mean a lot to you, or maybe you're, going through something particular in your life. It could be an issue you don't care about, or that you don't think very well because you weren't in a happy place when you made it. Mm-hmm. And as viewers and judges are viewers as well, we don't know any of that, and we can't know any of that. So we can respond emotionally to your color choices and stories that you've done with dioramas and things like that, but we can't know what's in your head. And sometimes your assumption about what we're going to pick or what people in general are going to like the best, because this is going to apply to likes on Facebook or Instagram or whatever too. We don't have that information. We just have what we can see. So we're just responding to what we can see, not how you feel.
And if there's 3 pieces they've entered, and every single time I enter, I will try to, at least at Reapercon, I'll try to enter at least 2 into the category, just because it's I'll have a couple of dioramas and a couple of painters, and I'll just put them in. Almost every single time, if I was to say they're going to pick this one, it's always the other one that gets picked. But even if you enter 3, 5, or whatever, we're going to pick, and all the judges pick whatever is going to score the absolute best. So we are, I guess for lack of a better term, rounding up. We're looking for that many of the 3 to 5 or whatever that is the highest possible score you could get. And if they're all relatively the same, which tends to be the case, they all tend to be in the same range. Again, we're all people, and we're picking what subject matter we might like or overall execution. Again, if it's all the same ability level, it'd be like, I like this monster.
A fun name.
Yeah, a fun name.
I pick one sometimes. If they're, I'd give the same award to all of these. Let's pick the one with the fun name or the coolest base or something like that.
We picked a fun name so it could be read out during the award ceremony.
We like to torture Anne. 100%.
So there's your hope.
Very difficult name. Yeah.
So if you don't think your paint job is any good, come up with just a kick-ass name, and you might still have an outside chance. Is what you're saying?
Oh yeah, we're
saying most people. Your painting's about at the same standard. And we have to pick one. And remember, we're looking at thousands of things. So the debate about which one of these 5 we're going to look at, eventually say, okay, would you score any one of these differently than the other? Someone would score that one higher, and the other judges are all other things are equal. They're going to go with that one. Like, we're always choosing in your favor. But at some point, if there isn't one or the other that's in your favor, we have to just pick one and move on. So we're trying to pick the one we think you want, but we get that wrong a lot.
All right. So that kind of leads me into my next question, Rhonda. If you're entering for a painting competition, how do you pick the miniature that you're going to enter?
That is an interesting discussion. I know there have been thousands of forum threads over the years of, well, you need to pick this or only paint what you like. And I think you want a high quality sculpt, you want a high quality cast or, production model of that as well, if you can. You do want something that you're interested in, but also something that kind of plays to your strengths, that shows a range of things that you can do, something you don't mind looking at for however many hours it takes you to paint it, because you're going to be there a minute. But I've never been one of these people who tries to game the system. Like, the GW things, people say, well, you got to do like the latest, greatest guy, or go pick some really old one and then do a totally different take on it. All of those are valid approaches to that kind of thing. And I just paint what I want. And if people aren't into it, oh, well. But I do accept that I'm not gaming the system and that I may not succeed on that basis.
Yeah, I do.
The quality is important, I think.
Yeah, with Reapercon, at least we have enough judges at this point. I mean, we can anywhere between 18 and 20 judges, people judging. So playing the game or trying to paint a certain style isn't going to necessarily get you, because you don't know who's going to be potentially judging. And we have a gradient that we're judging off of. So that should be relatively consistent. And we're doing spot checks at the same time too. Trash says, I picked the one with $20 under the base. No, Trash, I judged the one with $20 under the base. So just FYI.
I think that's irrelevant to Reapercon. We are very open to other stuff. And Reaper's not selling a game, so they don't care that you buy the most expensive captain or whatever. So I don't think that happens at this show, but I think there are shows where people think, and honestly, Crystal Brush, like the guy who ran that was in front of the fact there was. So some contests I don't think we are. And also I think we're way more forgiving about the model thing, because like we all know how bones are. So if you put a bones miniature in, you shouldn't have a miniature in. But if I were going to an outside contest, I would prefer to paint a resin or a metal miniature if one was available.
Yeah.
To a bone.
I do think.
I mean, old bone.
Yeah, it's a balance, and it's you got to find an interesting miniature that has a lot of visual interest that draws somebody into the actual sculpt itself, and then you can realize you're painting. Grabbing just a bear standing there isn't going to provide you the opportunity to, unless you're Aaron Hartwell and is going to paint it blue and pink and with yellow polka dots. You're not going to realize, you're not going to be able to realize all your skills into it. But at the same time, paint what you, and that's what I like about Reapercon, I guess, is you can paint whatever you want and whatever you like and what gives you the passion. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking that some of the things that I've seen win also had a certain degree of emotion to them that would evoke a certain emotion when you looked at it. I mean, obviously the execution would have to be there, but I would think that something that told a little story or had a backstory. I mean, Boundart actually asked a question about a backstory and a personality when you start to paint. If something like that is present, I would think that makes it a more interesting miniature to judge. Again, all other things being equal, once you get in with the execution part, then it really starts to, I would assume, then it really starts to fragment down to each individual judge.
The idea of both, that you have something that's well done technically, but also has a story and characterization. I am very bad at that. I'm much more of a technical painter. So Valander asked the character and backstory stuff for paint. I bet Michael does, and I far too often do not.
I talk to mine as I paint it, just make sure, and make little voices and stuff.
When they start talking back, that's when you know that you've really hooked into something.
Yeah. But
when they start yelling at you at night from the corner of the room, that kind of stuff.
But no, I think, but at the same time, Rhonda, do you enjoy entering painting competitions?
I enjoy open shows like the MSP Open, and there's a show in Atlanta that's a similar structure, and I still enjoy going to that. I don't enjoy where you have to have something that's brand new and you have to put like 50 or 60 hours into it, and it may or may not be successful. Like, I'd rather just paint what I paint and then bring it and let the judges choose what they think is good and not have to get all. But I used to really love contests. So I've gone back and forth in my painting career. There was a time when they were great just for me or making me try a new technique. I mean, the MSP Open, the medal thing is different from the trophy. So maybe you're not going to win a fancy trophy or one of the manufacturer awards. But it's still worth entering an open because we're looking at everybody's work. We're not only looking at the best 3 things or whatever in a podium style contest. But even in those kind of competitions, you can get a lot of value out of entering a contest, even if you don't think that you have much of a chance to win.
No, and again, the open style is perfect, I think, because you're judged on your own skill. There's gold, silver, and bronze, and there's as many golds as there are golds, if that makes sense. There's no limit. There's not like we only have 20 golds, and so that's all we're going to give out. And if you're not one of those lucky 20, then you don't get it. If there's 200,
I think that's a real important point to stress for anybody for whom this is a first time entry, is you can win a gold no matter what else everybody else is winning.
Yeah.
Because it's based on your execution, not necessarily your execution compared to somebody else's, until you get down to some specific categories. But as far as the medal, that stands on its own. That's your effort.
This is what you can get.
Yeah. It's big. Solid metal.
It's big and heavy.
Yeah, you can hit somebody over the head with it.
You get them in a fancy little case.
Yeah. They don't have the melt bin anymore, so you can't turn it into the melt bin like.
I think they're made of different stuff now too.
Okay.
That's why they're so much bigger, because it's not pewter. Look how expensive pewter is now.
If you want to better understand that reference, find me at Reapercon. But now we've been talking generally about open. So in open competition, we have 4 categories. We have painters, and that's what we talk about the most, and that's where we get most of our entries. And Rhonda, we brought Rhonda on today mainly to talk about the painters category. So we're going to come back to that. But know that there's also, you can enter in 4 different categories and walk away with 4 medals. There's also diorama, and that's where Jason was talking about the story. That's where story and emotion and feelings really come into play, and actually is a much higher judged component than, say, painters. It's a little confusing. There's open within open, and the open is scratch building, major conversions. A lot of the sculptors out there, that will end up painting their own pieces because they've sculpted them. So there's that option, but it can be as simple as a weapon swap, but the more complex you do it, the more score you get. It's like, I think I compare it to like a high dive. If you just jump off and you do a cannonball, you're going to get a 2 at the score. If you jump off and do a bunch of flips and twists and everything, then you get closer to the 10, you're going to realize your maximum score. And then the fourth category is ordnance. So tanks and planes and cannons and whatever, anything mechanical. You can put a big robot in there if you want to. But you
Last
can put...
year we had someone that made a gun, like a futuristic gun, like life size, and they put that. So we get some really unique stuff. It's not all miniatures. We've had puppets, bas relief sculptures that you would hang on the wall. We've had some really
that layered resin pour that Marika had last year.
Yeah, that was cool. I mean, so it's definitely open to the open competition is open to interesting and new ideas, and so we do have a judges award category. I think that's, what's it called, Rhonda, where we just pick like the craziest thing that we really like.
I thought it was just called the judges award.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called.
I don't remember.
But that ends up what it ends up being called. So, but back to because we're going to have spoiler alert. Derek Schubert's going to be on next week. So we're going to dive into the open category a lot more. And Derek has promised us a performance from his upcoming live show. So get ready for that next week. I know, right?
Definitely will have to watch that.
Yeah. But so back to Rhonda.
No way this has to do. Thank you for letting me go first.
Can you explain, like someone comes up and asks you, Rhonda, explain to me the painters category and why and what kind of piece is best to enter in painters?
So if you're someone who doesn't like doing a lot of conversions or sculpting, it can, straight out of the blister / box figures are the norm in the painters competition. And it really is 70% of the score. So the break, I don't know if someone has a link handy, but if you go to reapercon.com, there's a drop-down menu about the painting competition. And one of the pages you can look at is the rules. And it will tell you like the breakdown, I believe, for each of the categories. And the judges also have this information. So on painters, just painting is 70% of the score, where I think for open, and I think even diorama, it's 30. So one of the questions I was getting last year was, well, the bronze here looks a lot different than a bronze here. And you're not wrong. Like the standards are maybe different, or, a silver or whatever, may be different between those two, because painting, if you're just looking at the painting on something, the painting of a silver and open may not be as high quality as a painting on something that won silver in painters, because in painters, almost all we're looking at is painting.
Yeah.
Where in open, the fact that you sculpted it, diorama, the fact, which doesn't have to be on a big base. That's the thing about everyone always thinks dioramas have to be these huge sprawling.
Yeah, sometimes the smaller, simpler ones are really effective.
Tell the most story you can in the smallest amount of space with the fewest figures, I would say, is the challenge for diorama.
Yeah. And I would say, going down that path a little bit more, the reverse is true as well. You enter something that's really painted really well into diorama, for instance, and it tells zero story. You're missing out on those points.
Yeah.
That potentially can get you up. And you may, I don't know if I can think of any specific examples, but hypothetically it could happen where if it was entered just in painters, it could be a silver. But you put it in diorama and there's no story, it could knock it down to a bronze. That's potential. So you're really wanting to look for that. But if it's painted really well and it's not telling a story, don't be afraid to throw it into painters. And what we'll do judging too, let's say you put a piece into let's just say it was we'll run with that scenario, put it into diorama, and you didn't have anything in painters. And we look at it, go, the story's not really there. But man, this paint job's really good. And Rhonda and I have done this many times. We're like, okay, did this person put anything in painters? And if it ends up scoring better to throw it in painters, we don't actually throw it. We'll move it delicately.
No, we never throw the miniatures.
Well, Chris Marquardt does, but
at one time, at one time.
Throwing, that's not.
But yeah, it's we'll move it and bump the score up. We're always trying to look for that potential. But if there's something already in there and it's not going to change that piece, we're not going to take a medal away from you. We're going to leave it where it is, and it's going to get what it gets. So, but that's kind of cool. I've been parts of competitions where I have painted something specifically for the category, and during the competition, that category changed, or they got rid of the category and merged it with something else. So you ended up competing with things in which we will never do. Not that we'll ever not get, and this would pertain to, let's say, the Sophie trophies for Reaper. It's not like we're gonna, there was only 2 in open, so we're gonna throw them all together. That's not gonna happen. If there's trophies are there, and the categories there, that category is going to be judged and awarded at that point. So, yeah.
So basically, what you're saying is, make sure that you review the rules and the guidelines for each category, and the execution in some categories means more than just putting the paint on correctly.
Yes. Execution is always, in every category, important. Sure. You can have the best, funniest story in diorama, but if the paint job's not there.
Right. I just meant that it's all part of the execution.
Yeah.
So
yeah, totally. You're absolutely right.
Qualifications for execution are different depending on the category.
Yeah, no. And we on the basing thing, I see a bunch of comments, and
Tish says as long as it makes her laugh, she gives it extra points.
Hey, humor is, and Tish is one of them. Tish is one of the diorama judges typically. So she's back on that this year as well. It's generally Aaron Lovejoy, Ian Markham, and Tish are our diorama judges. At the top of my head, just because I know them. And fun and humor is huge. Humor's funny. If that grab the attention of the judges, and humor even plays even more so when you're doing not just for the medals, but for the trophies itself. Like, let's just say the Reaper Sophie Award. And we'll pull the pieces that we like, and we're looking at them. And just so you know, if anybody, Tish is the judge there, but if it comes and she's entered a Reaper piece and it comes for the Sophie Award, she might be on the panel for determining Sophie's, but if her piece is in any kind of consideration for that award, she's excused from, and we all would be, for judging. And that is, to go down that path a little bit more, if there's ever a time where a judge feels like, I've helped this person out a lot. I don't think I can judge this objectively. If there's any question on objectivity, the judge is encouraged to recuse themselves, and we have alternates to fill in. So, if whatever feelings are left outside, and we're judging pieces as they're being judged, even, your relationship with whoever doesn't matter shouldn't matter to anybody. If that ever became an issue, we fix it if it needs to be. So, but back to the basing side. Yeah.
Well, I will say sometimes, even if we feel that there's going to be a perception that the judging will not be perceived fairly, we will also step aside. Like, if we know that everybody knows we're like super great friends with this person, or if there might be a belief that someone doesn't like someone, even if the judge themselves feels like they can be impartial, if we don't think it's going to be perceived as impartial, we have alternate judges, and that is exactly what they are there for.
Yeah, no, and it's a bigger conversation than you would think initially while the judging is going on. I think we're hypersensitive to that. I don't want it ever to be that way. And I wanted just to go back a tiny bit for the basing size for dioramas. What everybody's saying, smaller is better. Condense, condense, condense. Move everything closer together. That makes your diorama just so much more impactful. Rhonda already said it earlier. We get these huge bases, and real life would say these characters are really that far apart. Stick them together.
Well, Pendrake was just asking about a diorama with the pirate ship with a boarding fight going on. And it popped into my head that would be a diorama, but it would make more sense to just restrict it to a certain area of that ship rather than submitting the whole ship. You'd just submit a portion where the action was happening.
Yes. So think of your camera. There we go. Our camera, right? People would go, they would do this before they would take a picture just to frame it in, right? Think of your frame of your action and what's outside of it, and try to zoom into that action as much as you possibly can. Now I agree, Jason. I mean, if you want to chop up that ship and make your cool little diorama, that would be awesome.
It would be more impactful if that's your goal. I mean, most of the time with the diorama stuff, it isn't really set up to then take apart and game with it. I mean, it becomes a work unto itself.
Yeah, and that's a great question too. You've got your gaming miniatures or your gaming pieces, and say you've done a great job on it. Enter it, but know that if it's just a gaming piece and that's the time and attention that you spent to it, is probably going to be reflective on your score.
We still enjoy seeing them, though.
Oh, totally.
Well, I mean, judges and people in general love to look at miniatures. That's why we're there. So go ahead and put them in.
I would say 30% of our entries, 30% plus of our entries are gaming miniatures. Don't you think?
Mm-hmm. At least.
That sounds about right from looking at them.
Yeah, just off the top of my head.
Too. A lot of people don't have time they have to multi-purpose stuff.
Yeah. So
there was a question in chat that I want to make sure to address. Pendrake asked, if somebody definitely wants one specific model judged, how hard is it to enter one model per category? And my question is what you're asking that you want feedback on that model? Because feedback and judging are, like, we had this come up last year. Feedback and judging are two separate things. You can ask for feedback on whatever you want. It doesn't have to be the model that was judged in the contest. And in fact, I would say you can ask for feedback in advance. Like, why wait? Why wait until the Sunday Crush? If you want to make sure you get feedback on a model, hit the artists up Thursday and Friday and Saturday. If you
Rhonda,
then need to speak with specific judges, you can. But you will have had feedback either way.
Do you need to get feedback on from the people that actually judged your piece?
I do not think you do. Particularly if you placed at anything lower than high silver, chances are any given 3 people on the artist row are going to hit the same topics that your judges would, or at least most of the same topics that your judges would. So I do think it's good to ask for multiple people's opinion, because we all explain things differently. We all see things differently. We all might make different recommendations, and then we all hear things differently. So you might understand the way Michael explains something better than when I explain it, or vice versa. So it's good to get multiple people's feedback, but it doesn't have to wait until after the contest, and it doesn't have to be your exact judges. Do yourselves and us a favor, because if you were there last year, you saw the lines, and there's only going to be more people at Reapercon this year than there were last year. So
I would do it before
the Sunday Rush.
I strongly suggest getting some feedback prior to, for exactly what Rhonda said. We will not be, we used to do the post, after the award ceremony, we'd all go in the crazy room and it's jam packed with people and everything. We're not going to be doing that this year officially. If any judges just want to be in there and providing feedback, they are totally open to doing that. But it's not, in the past, we kind of made it we didn't never made it a requirement. We made it a really strong suggestion. Judges, please be there after the competition to get feedback. We made a choice last year, and we're going to continue it this year. If you want to be in there, great. But they're around on Sunday to give feedback. But again, everyone's doing classes and running around. And here's the key thing too. This is for a lot of these, every single judge is volunteer only. I mean, they're here on the con to enjoy the con, and they're teaching and stuff, and they may have or may not have their own little sideline miniature career in painting or whatever. But it's their fun time and their con too. So they could be off teaching, they could be off wherever. Grab them and get that feedback. But anybody in the artist row, and especially if it's somebody that you're like, I love their stuff, whether they judged your piece or not, get feedback from them. And know that, some of that feedback may hit quickly, and other people, I'm like, yeah, that Michael, he told me how to do this, but I didn't understand anything he said. That's okay. I've gotten feedback from folks. I'm like, I don't know if that makes sense to me. And then I'll go to Rhonda, and then she'll tell me what they meant. And then I'll
and then sometimes 5 years later, you'll be like, oh, now I get it.
Right,
like you'll have learned more and you'll understand.
Well, and if you guys give feedback prior to the thing, there's no guarantee that's going to forecast a medal or anything.
Yeah.
No, we would never be giving feedback in terms of this is silver medal, this is gold, this is bronze. We'd be because sometimes people were saying, well, why am I getting so much critique on my base when it's in painters and base doesn't matter? And base can matter because that comes into the creativity, construction, presentation thing. But also we're just giving you overall feedback on if your question is how would I make this better, and the basic part make it better, we're going to mention it even if it was a painter's entry.
Yeah.
So does a pirate ship fit in any category?
It could. I really don't want to encourage 1,000 pirate ships being entered because I don't think we have the space for that. But it would end up by itself being ordnance.
Yeah. There may even be something in the rules, and I would double check this, that you do need to ask about whether you can bring an entry over a certain size because there are space limitations.
There used to be. I can't remember if there is in the last iteration or not, but there used to be a size.
I think Michael is the person you contact, even, right?
Well, that's why I asked here.
There is a size requirement. I'm just saying you can do it. I'm not going to say no. We're not going to say no. It's not like I'm the be all end all. I just wrangle the chickens so we have judges to judge various things. That's really what it boils down to. What does Michael do?
Need a whole new room for the fleet.
Yeah. So if this is something you're passionate about and you've spent all this time on and you're so proud of it, I'm not going to discourage anybody from entering that. I think go for it. But just note that if we're running out of room, it may be moved somewhere else until it can be considered, or maybe we have a ship area. I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen? We'll have to figure it out. But that's why we have flexibility.
So don't not do it.
Yeah, don't not do it. Dogfather is the category. Dogfather said, if the category just ordnance or ordnance/vehicle? The vehicle is thrown into ordnance. So ordnance, tank, cannon, plane, spaceship, anything that doesn't fall into anything mechanical, I guess, that is not necessarily, and you don't want to put in painters, and it's not telling a story, and you didn't massively convert it. Now, if you scratch built up a tank and you want to put it in open, do it. Go for it. It's what it's there for. You scratch it. And Derek's going to talk about this a little bit more, but if you're going to do a open piece, work in progress pics are always extremely helpful. What did you do? How did you change it? I did that lion bust a few years ago, and I took pictures through the process because you could see where I started and what were my conversions, because sometimes we may not know as a judging team. And so that's one of the...
That's when you started sculpting.
Yeah.
At the very least, photos of your starting, like if you're starting converting figures instead of scratch sculpting, give us the photo of where you started. Even if there are literally thousands in the catalog, we are not familiar with all of them, and it takes the time to see where you started. So if you want to make sure you're getting full credit for all you did, show us where you started, if nothing else. Like, you don't have to have some people do a booklet where it's like difference progress, and that's great if you wanted that too. Even just writing on your card, this was a Stoddle and I chopped the arm off and put this other guy's arm on. Any information that you can give in open is helpful for us to make sure we give you the full credit for what you did.
And also,
to answer Kendrick's original question, you can just enter one thing per category if that's all you have. But if I just wanted to make sure if the reason behind the question, because last year we had some people that put a bunch of stuff in display only, and then they had only like one actual entry, and they said it was because they wanted the feedback. And you don't have to do that. You can ask for the feedback on whatever you want. What we judge.
Yeah, Bryce is on, and Bryce tends to. I think he always gets put with Derek for open. Yeah, photos process thing is, again, just saying it again. It's super important to do that. Look, carts, chariots, ordnance is very open to interpretation, and we've never kicked anything out of ordnance out of the competition.
There's always going to be outliers in terms of size, I imagine.
Oh yeah. So there are times where we may struggle with a specific creative piece on where it needs to go, but we always will end up finding a category for it to be judged in. Marika's piece last year with the layers of resin was just so different. It ended up in open just because it was such a massively creative process. It could have been almost in anything, being less scored in diorama, but it could have been thrown into painters just as easily and scored just as well. But open really helped. I took my minis for feedback, and the person said, "Sir, this is an Arby's." Trash. That's just completely useless. Completely useless. But so, Rhonda.
Yes.
You're entering the competition, and you have decided that I am going to enter for. I really am going for a Sophie trophy. Expectations and go with that. Just go with that, and I'll ask some more questions.
I would say that it's rare for anything that wouldn't place at a gold medal level to trophy. I mean, it's happened on occasion, but it's very rare. So if you've been painting at bronze level for the past few Reapercons, go ahead and shoot for it, but don't get too upset if it doesn't happen. I mean, it's good to have goals. It's good to push yourself. But we have some pretty fantastic painters in our group of people. And every year there's always people who are either new people coming in that it's just like, wow, their work is amazing. People really been working to steadily improve, and their work is amazing. It is a top 3 thing, unlike the medal situation. So it's competitive, and the difference in judging is we're looking for reasons to exclude something. Like, we need to pick 3 things. So we may be like, well, this one needs to be considered because they did a really great job at this. But we might also say, I would like to exclude this one because I can see mold lines. So we're going to be having those conversations until we are left with 3 items for the 3 trophies. And then we decide what order.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, because they're all typically of a similar quality. Sometimes there's in the 3, there's like, if anything jumps out, it tends to be the first place tends to jump out. Like, yeah, that's definitely our goal. And then it's a discussion on silver and bronze. But, I've been to competitions where it's been a first, second, and third, and I've painted the best thing I've ever felt I've painted in my life. And it doesn't even make first cut. That was at a Crystal Brush, and is what it is. Can't beat yourself up over it. That year, if 3 other things were painted that much better than you, and it is what it is, and that could be the very best piece. And you could have won a Sophie the year before, and this year you don't win. You won a gold Sophie last year, and this year you don't place for a Sophie just because other people are like, oh my God, that person, I got to up my game, and a game gets upped every year. So it's a great trophy.
To remember the motto: you can control what you do and how much effort you put in anything, but you can't control what anyone else brings. So once you're at the show, it is like Michael said, it is what it is. You can't control it. But I will say, like, sometimes when we're talking about the Sophies, the third place has been the most difficult to decide, because someone that whoever you don't pick isn't getting an award then. And there'll be pieces that we might have 3 pieces that are fantastic. And that's where that stuff like mold lines, or I didn't go back and, I got a little streak of paint somewhere and I didn't go back and clean it up. Or, you didn't blend this bit of the base texture in with putty or something. All those like really little niggly things that you would never worry about on a gaming figure or just something that you're painting for fun. That's where those start becoming really important. Because if the other person did that stuff, then we're going to pick their piece. All else being equal. Have to find reasons not to pick one.
No, and that's why I like where we've gone with the open competition. I think it does encourage so much more entering. And, the Reapercon Sophies have been a tradition of Reapercon from the very beginning, I think. And it's nice to continue along. It's nice to promote the Reaper brand, I say, to having the exclusive trophies. And we mentioned CVP earlier to Moonlight Minis. It's nice to have the Manufacturers Awards as well. I know of Bombshell. I think Scale 75 is going to have. They usually just do a best of.
I've heard they were.
Yeah, so I think it's not a first, second, third. I just think it's a best of. I mean, I've entered a piece of Scale 75 a couple of years ago that was one of my favorite things I've ever done. Didn't get picked. And what about, so Rhonda, how do you, because I think this would be good for people entering, how do you process when you've entered a competition and you're looking at the top 3 and you don't know where you place, maybe 4th, 5th, 6th, wherever, but how do you process the fact of, you're looking at it going, God, mine is just as good as that? How do you process that? How do you swallow that? How do you handle that?
I remind myself that the judges get to look at things more closely than I do, particularly at contests where things are in cases. I really didn't get to see anything, but even here, we are allowed to pick up your figures. So please attach them to the display bases.
Great note.
Because we will pick it up by the base and tilt it, because we're trained to pick things up by the base.
We'll pull a Chris Mark card.
Yeah. It has happened, and it's very upsetting for the judge as well as for you. So I will remind myself that they get to look at something close up. They get to see the back. They may know more about painting and composition and a bunch of other stuff that I don't know. I mean, I think about how much more I know now than I know 5 years ago, and then how much more I knew than 5 years before that. And even when you get good, there's always better. And sometimes you just, like, you have no idea how much you don't know until you start learning it. And then you're, oh, wow, look at all that stuff I didn't know. So I am not someone who assumes, oh, well, they just don't like me, or they pick their friends, or I get the impulse to think that way. I'm more likely to think, about doing this as an art that I don't know yet. And that just is a challenge to me to try to learn that.
No, and there's all things being equal, sometimes the judges may have a personal preference towards a certain style, which you can't even control at all. The example I was giving on the Scale 75 thing, my piece was competing against another piece, and Aaron Lovejoy judged the thing for the best stuff. And he's like, Michael, they were both the same. And he just volunteered it to me. And he goes, I picked the other one because I just like that style better. I'm into that style right now, so that's why I picked it. It's fine. It is what it is. And judging is subjective, and it really is.
Yeah, when it's head to head, somebody's got to win, and
somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and if we can make Bryce cry, Rhonda just likes to make him cry.
No, oh God. It's actually
that.
really one of the hardest things about being a judge is knowing that you're disappointing people, whether you know them or not. But I mean, it is harder when you know the people and you like them and you're like, I want everyone to be happy all the time. Like that's just who I am as a person. Michael hates it. He thinks I need to be tougher.
I like to make Bryce cry if I can. That seems like a great goal every time.
But that is one of the things that make Bryce cry. Bryce is way too
well, and it's actually better for Bryce in the long run.
Yeah, he needs to cry. Hey, so Michael Dutcher with Listening to Paint Dry, good friend of the show, good friend of mine. He's going to be at Reapercon this year. I want to give him a little pump. Check out his podcast, Listening to Paint Dry. He interviews. He's interviewed me, but he interviews really good painters in general. Much better than me.
Do you use flashlights and magnifiers?
Yeah, that's where I was going with that.
To judge, do you?
We don't. We don't use flashlights because we have really good light in the room. If we need more light, we'll bring up.
No, it would really disrupt people that work real hard on the shading and the single source lighting and all
that. We discourage the use of optivisors and magnifying glasses during the judging. I want you to see the piece with your normal glasses and your eyesight. If you absolutely need it to see some special detail, and that's the deciding point of pushing it up to the next level, or at the final nitpicking, that's up to the judge whether they want to incorporate or not. But as a rule, generally, no magnifying glasses either.
Are of a certain age where our eyes no longer focus. So if you see judges with it, I mean, I use mine because honestly, I could just cheat. I can do this, and it's better than my magnifier because I'm extremely myopic. But my eyes will get tired, so it's use visor. But I do always want to look at something like this. Is a mistake that I made as a display painter, and I think a lot of people make. You are only thinking about that close-up view. And that is incorrect. You need to catch someone at arm's length. The same thing as the gamers need to do. It needs to look good here. It needs to say, hey, look at me off the table. And then when we look at it closer, we see all your awesome technique and the freehand and the subtle blush that you put in the cheek and all that kind of stuff. But a really good display piece, the kind that win the big awards, the kind that win the top level golds and everything, they generally do both. They look good here and they look good here. And that is something that was really tough for me to learn as a display painter. There is a question in chat, and this was also on the Reaper forums, and I can't remember if you went and answered it on the Reaper forums. Someone is asking, the Dogfather one is asking, can you submit something, where did it go? And ask for it to be judged only for special categories such as monster and wrestling. I am very curious about you might want that, but I believe that you agree that could be done. If that's what someone wanted to talk to the staff when you submit your figure, and they'll figure out how to indicate that on the card or the computer, and we'll do that.
Okay, so yes, you can do it if you want. Don't drive Mango and Debbie crazy. They're the ones that take all the entries. They can make a special note on the card. Because it'll end up being, it has to be put in painters or
you pull them for each category anyway.
Yeah, and so they're gonna be considered. But if there's a note, then if you don't want to be considered for open for that piece, you don't have to be. No, there's no reason to be. If you don't want it, you don't have to take it. But you want to make a note, fine. But yeah, what we do, and we do monsters or mouselings or whatever, is we go around the room and we pick the ones that we like, we put them all on the table, and then they fight. They duke it out to see who wins.
If the concern is that only your figure that gets judged would get considered for a trophy, don't worry about that. If you have 5 pieces and we judge a non-Reaper miniature for a silver medal, but you have a Reaper miniature and one of them's a mouseling and one's a giant monster, though the giant monster and the mouseling will still be considered for both the Sophie trophies and the monster trophy and the mouseling trophy. So what we judge for the medal has nothing to do with what we judge for the special trophies. Everything that is eligible for special trophy Like, we're not even looking at what you got. Like, we don't even know. We're just looking around the room going, okay, Reaper, Mouseling, Monster. And then we get the contest staff to double check we didn't miss anything of the right manufacturer or whatever.
Yeah,
so
one miniature could win several different awards.
Yes, yeah, that's a common thing. Yeah, if it's a great painted thing, we've had something win a Sophie and win a Mouseling, or win a Monster and win a Sophie, or but yeah, and then also if your piece didn't get picked for the medal and it's a Moonlight mini and Christine's going around, you could win a Moonlight award even though your piece wasn't picked for a medal because we picked a Reaper piece or a Dark Sword piece or something else instead. So yeah, it's just because it doesn't get picked. Now on the card, so when you enter, we're going to indicate which one we picked. We do that so we know that we picked one and that's going to be judged, but you'll see a highlighter marker. And it's typically yellow, let's just say. It changes every year depending on the marker's availability. But what we'll do for Sophies and for the Mouseling and the Monsters are, if you make it to the first cut, if you get pulled off the main table to the side table, you will get a special mark on your card so you can see, and we'll explain it and that day. Okay, yeah, if it was Mouseling or whatever, it'll have a blue highlighter, for instance. And at least we didn't used to do this, and I'm glad we started doing it a few years ago. We'll mark it and say, yeah, you made first cut, because as you're learning, and this was huge for me, is like, I didn't win a trophy, but I was even considered? Because that's your next step, right? I feel like I'm getting better. So that's kind of what we're trying to do as well. Care to add anything, Rhonda?
The Dogfather one, you can. The Dogfather's asking why the entries aren't anonymous. You can enter anonymously if you wish to. So again, you would tell the contest entry staff who are not involved in judging in any way that you wish to enter anonymously. A lot of the times, either we're not going to know who painted it anyway, or like Michael's style is so distinctive that he could put anonymous on his card and I'm going to know he painted that miniature. So, I mean, if the concern is bias, again, like I said, we have controls for that. So another control that may not be obvious to you is, let's say Michael, I, and Jason are on a judging team. Michael and I, and then Jason gave it a 1. That's a big enough discrepancy that someone is going to see it, and Michael is actually the person who makes us justify our choices. But Bengu, I think, does the checking of the numbers. But someone will say,
Chris and I will.
So we would make sure that Jason was looking at the right person, that he didn't accident. Like, I've done this plenty of times. I circled the wrong name.
How come it's me? Why am I the odd guy?
It's just a theoretical example. So we make sure that everybody was looking at the same miniature, that nobody made a mistake writing on their judge's sheet, and that if they really mean that score, it could go the other way too. Someone gets 2 1s and a 3 from the other judge. That's still a discrepancy. That's still going to be called in to make sure that everybody looking at the same thing, everybody really mean. And we've had, sometimes it's happened that the judges are like, no, I feel very strongly this is my vote. But other times we have caught, I was looking at, I miswrote on the sheet, and then we catch that. And I
think I've anticipated the answer here, but there's a quick question about if there's an animal companion, is it better to keep it on a separate base or the same base as the main figure?
What is your answer, Jason? What's your gut answer?
I would think that you run the risk having 2 separate bases of having 2 separate entries.
Yeah. I think for a painting competition, you are entering a painting competition. If you need them separate for gaming, just know that you're going to get more of an impact if they're based together and they're included together.
Maybe figure out a special base for it in that case.
Yeah.
I would at least try to have a base that even if you just blue tack it on so that it's clear that those 2 minis are associated together. But the more effort you put into the shared base, that's going to impact your construction, creativity, presentation. So even in painters, that's still 30% of your score, all those other things. So it's going
another
to
thing
look more.
Yeah, another thing in the judging to kind of go along with what Rhonda was saying, that if there's any outlier scores, if there's a score within the 3 judges that's 2 numbers away from the other scores, right? 3 and 2 1s or whatever it is. We'll do, and Rhonda and I did this last year, and I usually grab a couple other people to kind of consider as well. We'll take some pieces that maybe scored lower than we expect them to, and then or that they show as being scored. And so we'll go back and take a look at them again and rejudge them ourselves. But we'll have the original judge team. I'll have the captain come up and talk about that piece and why they judged it, where they judged it. And we have found, like, oh, it's human. And sometimes, oh, there was an error. Yeah, that should be a low gold instead of a high silver. I get it. Yeah, we missed on that one, or we fix it. Or more so the case is, this is where we judged it, and I feel confident that we judged it appropriately, and that's the question. But we're asking those questions a lot, just to make sure that we're doing it over one night. Jim, Ron, and I started judging the night before on Thursdays, just to kind of help with the backlog. We're getting close to 1,000 entries each time. So there's a lot that's being considered. This time we're going to be doing just painters, Rhonda, instead of trying to do open the night before and breaking our brains.
We made mistakes, but we're improving our system. And we are always trying to improve our system, and we're always trying to do stuff in your favor. I don't know why people feel like we're so antagonistic towards them. This is meant to be a really encouraging hobby. We are always trying to make things in your favor. But if you feel like we can't, like if you feel like somebody looked at you funny once and the judges all hate you, enter anonymously. That's fine. We don't mind.
Oh, yeah.
You're more than welcome.
Totally. We've had people over the years enter anonymously for mixed reasons, but whatever your reason, it doesn't really matter. Enter anonymously if that's what you want, and go from there. But honestly,
it's not the standard in this show, because we're borrowing this system from the historical miniatures community. A guy named Shepard Payne, put together the guidelines that we follow and the structure and stuff. So there's numerous groups around the country, and then I mentioned World Expo, they're following the same system. So Reaper adopted that, and the standard there is that, I mean, there are people who actually have like name plaques when I go to historical cons that they put up.
Yeah.
So it's unlike some gaming traditional competitions have been, it's not about anonymity. It's about kind of, you make these friends and you recognize these people as really, successful at the hobby. So it doesn't have that standard, but we have accommodated the desire for anonymity, and people have done it in the past. So
under open, you're only competing with yourself. I mean,
yes.
Other than the specific categories that you mentioned. For the medals,
and as far as and sometimes I hear, well, the instructors always get favoritism treatment in judging, or I find that, Rhonda, sometimes to be opposite. I think sometimes fellow instructors tend to judge.
Bryce will tell you about that.
Yeah.
The time I broke Bryce's heart, it was because I was being too hard on him, not too easy on him.
Yeah, and I have to have conversations, generally about once every year. Hey, I know they're that great, but you can't, don't hit them harder because they're really good, that kind of thing. Oh, someone asked about I think they're asking about these, the wooden dowels, Hobby Lobby or Michael's. Get them over in the little wood section, and I don't know how much they are, but you get a pack of 6 or 8 of them for relatively cheap, $4, $5, $6, something like that.
I think they call them spools.
They're like, that's just all they used to be. But so I just buy a truckload of them. And
What's Two Beasts asked about speed painting events. Those are not part of the MSP Open. I mean, if you did speed paint something before the contest ended and you wanted to put it in, you can. But I forget what they call the umbrella of those now, but Ludo runs a lot of events where there's like speed painting, there's Sophie Says painting. I think there's some other stuff as well, but those aren't part of the competition. Those are just like fun things you can do at Reapercon.
Yeah. And
I don't know if there are prizes for the speed painting rounds.
Yeah, hobby hijinks.
That would be a Thursday question. Hobby hijinks. Yeah. That's a Thursday question.
Ludo.
Yeah.
Have we missed anything? I keep thinking that there's always kinds of there's always going to be stuff that we're missing. If anybody wants to throw any questions in, that's great. Yeah.
Well, we'll also
Jason?
be able to address some more questions next week.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. Plus, I mean, I don't want to rob Derek from his performance time, though.
Bots to Beast, we were just answering your question about the speed paint. So if you want to, after we finish up, you can just watch the end. Basically, it's a separate section of the con. So there's hobby hijinks, there are speed paints, and Sophie paints. You could choose to enter something, but it's not in any way connected to the MSP Open part of the convention. But you also asked, do all competitions have a requirement? I noticed most do. Are there any that will allow pieces open, for instance? If a contest isn't manufacturer based, as far as I know, they all allow completely scratch sculpted pieces. What will happen in some contests, and I believe ours, is only one person can enter. So if one person sculpted it and one person painted it, they get to choose between them who's going to get credited with the entry. But yeah, the open category, the gold standard of the open category at the MSP Open is completely scratch sculpted and painted. It's Derek Schubert is the pinnacle of achievement in the open category. You don't have to be Derek Schubert to enter, but that's like the top of that category.
I had that question come up from a person last year, fantastic world-renowned painter who was at Reapercon. His name is escaping me, the big tall guy with the beard.
Eric Swinson?
Yeah, Eric Swinson had a piece he wanted to enter, and he painted it. Someone else sculpted it, and he wanted to know whether he can put it in open. Because in World Expo, you can. In those European things, they're set up to do that. Unfortunately, for open, you need to do both. If you're not doing both, then it's a painter's or a diorama, basically. If you're not doing the conversions yourself, then it's not fair to all the other folks that are doing it all themselves. Does that make sense? I mean, that's just, we had to draw a line there. And that's just kind of where it is. You need to have done that. That's the spirit of what we have defined open at Reapercon.
So I don't know if that answered your question, Bots to Beasts. If it didn't, feel free to DM Michael or myself here on Twitch, and we will try to get you a clearer answer.
Okay.
The one thing I say is if you paint something in speed paint competition, you want to enter it in the MSP Open before the deadline, you're more than welcome to do that. But as events, they're run by separate people and they're not connected.
Okay. Bots to Beast asking another one. Now, as far as sculpted piece, does it have to be an original design or can be representative of or establish art or character? It could be anything you want. If you've taken your art or somebody else's art, there's no licensing agreements that we're trying to follow here. It could be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or whatever you want it to be. And you've sculpted that and you've painted it, whatever.
Yeah, you're not selling the piece through the competition.
I mean, honestly, it doesn't even have to be there because we've had puppets, we've had bas relief sculptures. What other interesting things have we had over the years?
Oh my God.
There's all kinds of stuff like garage kits. When we call it open, it is open. Somebody painted something out of a gumball machine.
Styrene models, and gummy bears.
Laszlo painted something out of a gumball machine, and he also put together a base out of an air freshener. So it's very open.
Puppets.
By the way, I wanted to interject here and have everyone do their hashtag free. As we near the end of the show here,
yes,
we're going to be giving away a couple of Pokey Tools. So
2 pokey tools.
2 pokey tools.
I'm excited.
Do we know the hours of things? There was a question about when does registration open, which I assume contest registration.
Well,
I don't know if we know yet.
Yeah, we don't know. It's too early, but last year we did the online pre-registration, which was, oh my God. If you guys can do that, you can upload.
Yeah, that seemed to be pretty streamlined.
Everything works like it did last year. I'm assuming that it does. Let's just assume that it does. You can upload your own photos. And the photos have nothing to do with judging. We don't look at them. But what they show up on the giant screens. And so it's kind of cool to see your own photograph if you like what your photograph you took, because we're going to try to take as good a picture as we can, but they're churning and burning, taking pictures of entries. And it also frees Debbie and Mangu, who are, and Allie Lou is going to be there too and helping in the intake. Those are honestly the unsung heroes of this whole MSP Open. And I told Ron Hawkins this, if Debbie ever quit, I would quit tomorrow on doing the painting competition. I'd not be involved in it whatsoever, because they make it run. The rest of us chickens just show up and judge things and get to see all the pretty toys, and they make sure everything works. So with that being said, if you can pre-register, please do. Upload your own photos. It's saving them a ton of time. One last thing. I wanted to ask this. Rhonda, paint till the very last minute and enter it, or have it done ahead of time? What has been your best results?
My ideal is, if you can have finished at least several days before you're going to leave, then don't look at it, then come back and look at it and see if you need to fix anything. But even if I can't do that, even if I'm painting, 5 minutes before the plane takes off, I want to be done before the con, because I just want to have fun. I want to hang out with my friends. I want to go to classes. I want to teach classes. I want to do the con, not sit in my room or sit at a table and paint my entry. Now, if I'm sitting, painting with friends, I'm not saying I don't want to paint at the con, but I don't want to be worried about my entry at the con. I want that's done. Now it's fun time.
Yeah, I always feel like I do my best work at home.
The thing about photos actually reminds me that if people would like to see things that have been entered, because we do one other thing with the photos, they're all on the webpage. If you go to reapercon.com and you look at the MSP Open dropdown that I mentioned, it will have years, and it will show you the entries for every year and where they placed. As Michael mentioned, there's only so much we can do with photographs, so you're not going to be able to see all the details of a piece, but you can get an idea of the standards of the trophies. You can get an idea of the wide variety of things that have been entered into the contest. And you will also get to see, if you've had pieces in the past that you entered and you don't have photographs of them, you can go steal the picture. Keep it for yourself.
Sometimes we sculpt stuff years in advance of Reapercon.
Yeah.
Then you get lots of time to reflect.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, Moonlight Minis asked, does winning Best in Show still make you ineligible for some awards in future shows? Winning Best in Show never made you ineligible for anything. Best in Show is a vote. It's not a judge thing. So you guys get to vote too. If you enter, you get to vote for Best in Show, and there are 3 of them, and it's very confusing. They'll explain that next show. But it does not impact what you can do in future shows. Or what
Nothing excludes you going forward from no award that you win here excludes you from any future award.
Well, that's not true, Michael. You and I are in the MSP medalists. We have to go gold or go home.
Oh,
Not the trophy.
That's
true. Go gold or go home.
Yeah, so anybody that wins, that's a great point. Is the MSP medalist is this award, burden, chain, shackles. But yeah, you for anybody who is an MSP medalist, if you don't paint a gold piece, and you don't get diddly. Is that like my editing there? You don't get a silver. You get nothing. So Erin Hartwell. She says shackles can definitely.
Pressure's
but
on.
yeah, it is. So there's that. But no, I mean everything else, and any of the trophies that are out there are open game for whoever enters them. So it's free for all.
I am Terjan. The MSP medalist is not it's not really an award that's tied to the contest. Right. It's a recognition of an overall standard of work and also community contributions. And this is something else that we've borrowed from those historical miniature shows that I was mentioning. Often, there are a lot of people who are getting older in those clubs. So part of what that award is, they're recognizing that you achieve that standard in your life. And if you don't keep bringing work to that standard, you're still recognized as a master of your hobby, even though your eyes are getting old and your hands shake.
So you had a glory days at one point.
Yeah, you had a glory days, but for us, it's also very important that community contributions. Yeah. So you've been teaching classes, you're encouraging on the forums, you've run paint takes, a lot, that kind of stuff is what I mean by community. I wrote a whole stupid bones fact, I think is why I got in.
Huh? Say that again.
I wrote the stupid bones fact when bones first came out, and I did all those tests, and I was throwing them in my dryer to see which one the paint scratched off. I think that's why I got voted in the MSP Open. I'm in the MSP medals.
Yeah, and your trophy will most likely not include a Bob Ross bobblehead on top.
Alas, mine did not.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like a lifetime achievement award kind of thing. I guess that's the best way to put it. It's pretty cool. We did not do it last year, but I'm hoping that we pick it back up again this year. But that's for the Reaper folks to determine. The MSP medalists, the ones that had won it previously, get to vote on the next inductee. Also, there is the Reaper Hall of Fame, which is a separate trophy altogether. And that is mainly determined by Ron Hawkins, right, Jason?
Yes.
Yeah. So he makes that.
Short answer, yes.
Yeah. That's Lifetime Achievement Award within Reaper, contributing Reaper.
There is some input, but Ron is the gatekeeper.
Sculptors are in it. Painters are in it.
Community people are in it.
Community people are in it.
Huge volunteers like Debbie.
Yeah. Chris Marquardt won. He does the auction, and he does not just the auction, but he helps out with judging and MSP, but he also coordinates all the vendors. He's volunteer. So
yeah, he does a lot of stuff behind the scenes that people don't even see. So
Debbie is in the Hall of Fame, and she, Debbie and Debbie Lewis, she runs the painting competition. She makes sure it actually works. So yeah. And the bus model, it's done. We are waiting on a bigger one. If you mean painting, I haven't painted it yet. Let me show this one.
Yeah, we've got something in discussion for that for Reapercon, as a matter of fact, I think.
And then it's right
There's
there.
There's an ordinance model right there.
This kicks out. Okay, sorry, I was dorked out there for a minute. So hey, we're at 5:30.
Yeah. You guys ready to announce these names of the winners?
Yes. How many we got?
2.
Okay.
Should we let Rhonda do it?
We should.
Yeah, let's let Rhonda do it.
All right, let's get the bifocals working.
You ready, Rhonda?
There's the first one. No, that's not it.
Well,
there we go.
X grave mistake X.
Yeah.
Okay.
Congratulations.
And here we go. Last one.
Nope. That's Big Jim 4 or IV. Big Jim IV or Big Jim 4?
Big Jim 4.
Yeah, because Big Jim 3, I think we disqualified Big Jim 3.
Yeah, no, we don't want Big Jim 3 winning. Big Jim 4, definitely. So, yeah, I won something, and right there, the Darth Abacus bot for the 2 that won. That's what you do. send it in, and you'll get your. So what's the Jason Weeby?
Yes.
This illustrious pokey tool. How can somebody win this, or how can somebody get this? I should say.
I think you have to. I think you have to watch the show, and you have to put in #free, and you have to be drawn.
Yeah. So the only way to get it is on this show.
That's it, pretty much. Yeah, unless you swipe one at Reapercon.
Yeah, don't do that. Or be a guest.
Well, yeah, there are guests, I guess. They get one.
Yeah, guests get one too.
Well, Jason's very grudging about whether guests can have any.
Well, remember, I only got the one, and I made it into a hat pin, so I don't even have it.
We were just at Reaper a couple months ago. I gave you more. I found where they were hidden, and you have more than one. I think that's just you do.
Or did I sell them on eBay?
Well, I don't know. Anyways,
so I guess I won't ask for one for being a guest this time.
All right. So Rhonda, thanks so much for joining us.
Big Jim 5 on eBay.
Big Jim 4.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, unless you want to be.
Oh, and actually, I'm going to put a link in the chat. I have some information about, how to understand feedback from contests and stuff like before and after if you change things. But I also have one with facts specifically about the MSP Open. So I will also put that link in, since I apparently have the enormous power of being able to put links in chat.
Facts are great.
I
used to have that power, but they took it away from me again.
Did they?
Did you use it?
Apparently I did, yeah.
Yeah. Cranky Dog, I won them twice, but got gift certificates instead.
Are you out of the country, maybe?
I don't know where. I thought Cranky Dog was here, but I'm not sure. Yeah, if you're out of the country, you're going to get a gift certificate. Oh, yeah. She's in one of those Canadians.
I know how you guys discriminate against Canadians.
Oh, my God. Rhonda gets discriminated against constantly by us. No. Even though she's not a Canadian anymore.
I'm a both. I'm a both now.
You're a both.
I'm a both.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're both, then you're a Canadian.
Well, we could maybe, we could figure out something maybe if they were to find us at Reapercon with proof that they won.
Yeah. We could do that. So, Justin, let's get to rating.
So we're going to be rating the otters, which is always Michael's favorite. So
yes, I love the otters.
Yeah, I do love the otters too. So,
they're worth $9 million right now, those otters.
Are they?
That's what you said.
Not the otters.
Oh,
okay.
Not the otters. Although I wish the otters were worth
God, there's so many ways to go with that. I can't do it though.
Yeah,
I do wish they were.
Just figured I'd roll that bomb in there, see what happened.
Yeah. Thank you for that, because people have no idea what we're joking about.
No, but that's okay.
Yeah,
that's all right.
It's fine. But hey, if someone in chat wants to give the otters $9 million, that's okay too.
That's right.
Oh my God! Right? Yeah. I can't believe it.
Thank you guys very much for hanging out with us today. We're glad to be back, obviously, and I'm glad we're talking about MSP. We might talk about it again next week because we could talk about it exhaustively, and I know people always have questions. But thank you again, and we will see you probably tomorrow or Thursday for Reaper Live, really. But thank you guys very much.
Tomorrow. Isn't there shows tomorrow?
We do have shows tomorrow, but I mean in terms of like the direct Reaper production stuff.
You got Luca.
We do have Luca tomorrow. Which, by the way, we're working on a deal to get him over here for Reapercon. So.
Ooh, that'd be great.
That would be so awesome.
We should, and if you want to get Luca on the show, if Luca is awake, I don't know when he sleeps. We can have him on the show if Luca wants to. But
Absolutely.
He's got to sleep sometimes.
He does.
He's in Italy.
That's true.
Did you ever confirm whether he lived on the second floor or not?
Luca?
You were gonna do that.
No, I didn't confirm that. But thank you folks very much. Have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.